Hello, I'm Jacques-André Barth. I'm the CEO and founder of OpenNet Limited, the leading Odoo partner in Switzerland. Our future is at stake. Global warming, loss of biodiversity is a danger to our future. We are in the last decade where major damages to our planet can still be prevented. As a business leader, we hold a special responsibility to answer the call to action from the street and from the scientific community. To win the battle, we need to know our enemy. We need numbers on our current carbon footprint. In order to do so, OpenNet hired a consultancy firm to help us compute and compensate CO2 emissions. It proved to be costly and inaccurate, as daily transactions are not taken into account in this yearly review. In fact, all information we needed could be in Odoo automatically at your disposal. If you're using Odoo for your accounting, you can trace every single financial transaction in balance sheet and P&L. Sit back a minute and think. You will agree with me when this transaction also have an impact on natural resource consumption. When you buy raw materials, travel to a customer place, rent an office, you have an impact on CO2 production by your supplier. By purchasing goods and services, you accept the responsibility for the CO2 emission of your supplier. When your customer purchases from you, you pass on to them the responsibility of the total CO2 emissions triggered by the whole process from your own company as well as from your suppliers. As money flows in one way, from final customer to suppliers, ecological impact moves the other way around, from suppliers to customer. By adding a CO2 value to every accounting entry, you can trace it easily in real time and use the financial reports of Odoo to measure and analyze it. In every accounting entry, you have a link to a product or at least to an account. The value can be set according to the monetary value, the red one, or to the product unit, the green one. In the case of a purchase, our Odoo module will first look into the product to see if a CO2 value is configured, either per unit or per value. If no values are found, Odoo look in the supplier info or to the default value of the country of origin. If there is still no value, Odoo looks into the product category. In the case there is still no value, Odoo will fall back on the default company value. If an exception must be set, it can be at the account level. For example, taxes can be considered as carbon-free accounting entries. In the case of a sale, the systems work with the same logic, but different values. The goal is to accurately pass to our customer the full value of the CO2 emissions. Either they compensate or not is up to them. As a company, you will be able to print your CO2 balance sheet and your CO2 profit and loss.
Quelles sont les bases sur lesquelles on peut appuyer un système qui soit finalement référencé aux principes fondamentaux de la physique, et la conservation de la matière fait partie de cela. Finalement, si on sort quelque chose de la terre pour le brûler, eh ben, on fait une opération dans laquelle peut-être qu'elle va servir à quelque chose à l'humanité, mais le résultat net de cette opération, c'est qu'on se retrouve après avec du CO2 dans l'atmosphère. Avant, on a du CO2 potentiel dans la Terre. Et on peut imaginer de complexifier le système avec des transports, avec des raffinages, avec toutes sortes de travaux, mais au final, on fait toujours la même chose. On prend le système qu'on considère, on a du CO2 qui est sous forme non émise, et après, on se retrouve avec un déplacement de ce CO2 vers l'atmosphère. Et le problème principal qu'a le monde aujourd'hui, c'est justement ce transfert. C'est qu'on prend le CO2 sous forme de carbone, de graphite, de pétrole, de Dieu sait quoi, et on le brûle ou on le transforme d'une manière ou d'une autre vers du CO2. et la balance est juste. Et finalement, à quoi ça ressemble? Comme vous le disiez, ça ressemble à une comptabilité, et finalement, on est dans un système comptable. Un système comptable, c'est un jeu à somme nulle. La conservation de la matière, c'est un jeu à somme nulle. Il suffit de matcher les deux. Et finalement, on se retrouve avec, d'un côté, une information financière qu'on traite par la comptabilité, mais finalement, tous les flux qui sont associés à cette information financière sont exactement les flux qui correspondent aux émissions. Et donc, en les faisant suivre, on a résolu le problème.
Using accounting entries as the basis for CO2 computations gives the system some extra advantages. You can use analytic accounting to isolate CO2 impact of a specific project. For the assets, the carbon value will be assessed in line with the depreciation entries. In case of manufacturing, the CO2 value will be the sum of the components' value. The CO2 value can be set at many different levels. The default value is set at the company level. Other value can be set for purchase at the country level, affecting all the purchase done by a supplier in this country. If you want to go into more details, then you can set the value at the product level. This can be done at the product category value. If a value is set, it will affect all the product in this category. We don't have a specific value. If you want to set it at the product level, we can group them by the carbon pricing method. Some product has a value according to the price, and some product might have a value according to the number of items. Based on quantity or based on price, with a sale ratio of 0.4. This product can be purchased to different suppliers. One of the suppliers has a price of 40, but a conversion ratio of 1. The other supplier has a price of 50, but a conversion ratio of 0.9. If you want to set exception, this can be done using your accounting chart of account. Let's take the chart of account and see here some of the account has a special CO2 ratio of 0 because it's just cash. Some other account can have some specific value. For example, here we have a machinery account which a value of 0.5. In this case, this value will take over the value of the product. The accounting reports are based on the standard Odoo accounting reports. They are just duplicated. If you take the list of the accounting reports, then you have balance sheet and profit and loss for CO2. They are just copy of the standard Odoo report. They define, thanks to our model as a CO2 report, a unit in kg, and every single rules is just a copy of the basic rules set up by the general reports of Odoo. Let's make a basic process. We'll be buying and selling goods. Let's start with the purchase. You create the purchase as usual. Maybe select supplier A and select some of the product you want to buy. The first product is based on the quantity. The second product is the one that has a supplier value. If you say when you want 10 units from the first product, you will be 12.5 on CO2 debt, and the second product, which is based on the supplier value, 1 unit will be 1 kg. If now you change to supplier B and you update the quantity of your product, you will see that now your CO2 debt is 9 because you have a specific value for this supplier. Like usual, let's confirm the order and let's create the bill. The bill, here you have the units and you have the monetary value as well as the CO2 debt value. If you go in the accounting entry, as you can see, you have the money flowing in one way and the CO2 moving in the other way. Let's confirm this entry. After I just put the date, and I will confirm the entry here we will have standard accounting entries. Now, let's sell some of the product we just bought. You will create a sale order. The sale order may be to an export customer. You will add the item A. You will resell the total quantity and maybe sell only a part of item B. 5 item B will be sold to the customer. The process is exactly the same. You confirm and you create the invoice once you have delivered the product or not, but you can also create a regular invoice right away. You will see when you have 10 units, 5 units, 12.5, 4.5 for the CO2, and you see also here in the accounting entries the same process, money flow one way, CO2 flow in the other way. And I will just confirm this invoice. Now, if you come into the accounting application, you will say when you have one customer invoice, one vendor invoice. And we will go into the reporting to see the results. If we go either in the national profit and loss report or in the general profit and loss report, both of them will be working with the data we have. Let's see here, we are opening all the entries, and you see when you sell for 17 kg of CO2, you pass to your customer, but you acquire 21.5 kg of CO2, which means when you have still 4.5 CO2 kg which are within your company. If you use the generic statement, it's also the same figure. Let's say that we take this financial year with no comparison, and you have so this 17 that you have been passing versus the 21.5 you bought. So this remain is CO2 when you hasn't actually passed to your customer. Our CO2 module are based on accounting because accounting records every single transaction in a company. Let's say, for example, when you want to have an asset or you have a deferred expense. You already have a model in Odoo when you have a recognition over the next 3 years for this 1005 machinery account. Let's look into a vendor bill that will use this feature. We have here this bill, then we have this account, we have a price of 10,000. Odoo is taking the tax off to compute the CO2 debt equivalent of 4,642. As soon as I confirm this bill, then I will have a deferred expense which is created, and here I have a computation of the yearly CO2 depreciation that should be taken into account. My posted entries will be posted as soon as Odoo is running the automated job to post them. If I go now into my balance sheet, I will see if I take by the end of the year, and I will add, of course, the unposted entries, include the posted entries. Then I will see I will have in this account of machinery, I will have 3009. If I was taking that of today, I will have 4006. And if I would took it in the future, obviously the amount will go down. Same thing if I go now in the profit and loss. If I go in the profit and loss for the future, I will see when I have this value, when will appear progressively in my P&L. Here I have the depreciation value. After 2 years, it will be 3095 kg of CO2. Our last demo will address deferred revenue and analytics. We have one invoice to validate. This invoice has been established for local customer, for hosting, going to the deferred revenue account for 1 year, starting from the 1st of January, a monetary value of 12,000 and a CO2 debt of 3,000 kg. Once I validate it, Odoo will automatically create the deferred revenue. In the deferred revenue, you will see over the 12 months the depreciation for the CO2 value, and you have the posted entries already posted. If now I go into my reporting and I take a profit and loss for Q3, I can see then I have here 750 kg for the revenue hosting, and the same in the previous quarter. If I was matching, for example, this financial year versus the year before, as I haven't started the hosting, I will have no value in this period. Here you see I have also the filters in accounts. Let's say this is, I want to see all the value, so I kick off the analytic filter for the local customer, and I have the total CO2 performance for all market. If I want to see only for the export market, then you see I only have the goods I sold in the first example. So in this way, either per market or for a specific project, you can even have a CO2 profit and loss for a specific operation. I hope this short demo gives you really an overview of what is possible, but even more things are possible because all entries are always linked to accounting entries. It's just another dimension of accounting, so you can even imagine more reports, more features, and we are ready to develop it for you easily. At OpenNet, we compensate CO2 since 2019. But our main goal is not to buy a pollution permit or a green logo, but to build a sustainable world for generations to come. We do our CO2 neutrality, but on top of that, we give free working time for the same value for projects or actions with a positive social or ecological impact. Any company has a triple impact: economical, environmental, and social. So far, we only talk about the first two, but as you might have guessed, the same system will also work to compute a social impact on your activities. If you are not yet using Odoo, don't worry, we will shortly release a standalone version where you will be able to generate your own profit and loss with the CO2 value. Thanks to Odoo for this talk, iPlazer for the ideas, Extinction Rebellion, and the scientific community for the motivation. While we speak, another 700,000 tons of CO2 has been emitted on Earth, challenging our ability to do business in the future, but also our health and the ones of our children.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jack, for this talk. Quite engaging and quite interesting. So thank you so much, our viewers, for joining us in this session. Don't forget to ask questions, as now is the best time. And we already have a few questions already. So the first one would be, is this module and module package on Odoo Enterprise or Community? Can you have them on both?
Well, you can find the modules on Odoo, on apps.odoo.com. You just type CO2 and you will see you have 7 modules. The modules are available for both enterprise and community versions. And we sell the modules at 450. It's not each module 450, it's all the modules 450. It means any modules you buy, you get the other one for free. And you can install it on community and on enterprise.
Okay.
Why this pricing? Is because, for example, you want to use some of the modules, you don't want the inventory because you don't have inventory, you only want finance accounting modules, but you get all the modules because they somehow interlink to each other, so that you can install or activate them as you want. If you're a community version, you can install all of them because you don't have to pay extra for modules, but if you're an enterprise version, you may consider to install the module one after the other.
All right, understood. Thank you so much. And people are asking whether you would provide some help with these modules. If, for example, they would like some custom features maybe, or they are just having troubles understanding the modules.
Yeah. There are two things. When you buy the modules, you get 2 hours consulting because we are aware, and in the video, at a point, I show you how all the different places where you can put a CO2 equivalent value. So it has really to be explained in the context of your company, in the context of your country accounting. So we always give these 2 hours to explain you how to work on it. After, if you want to have some special feature, additional feature, it's always possible. It's been built with a customer, and the customer has been also in the process asking for more and more feature.
Okay, that's really good. And you had already quite a success story there. Do you believe that in the future, measuring CO2, your CO2 impact, will bring more benefits to the companies?
I think it will become, in the years to come, a very, very hot topic. First of all, if you are in the European Union, normally 1st of January 2023, there will be a CO2 tax at the border. So it means if you are EU, you want to know how much you have to pay the taxes to import it. If you're an exporter selling to EU companies, then you will try to minimize your CO2 value in your product in order to pay less taxes when they come into the EU. And I believe outside of this question of border taxes, then as countries say they will be CO2 neutrality in 2050, then we will need a way to do this accounting. And basically to be neutral, it means you make no profit, no loss. It means you have a P&L with a total result at zero. And the modules allow this to do it, whether you're a company, you want to improve it, whether you are a government body, you want to control it, whether you might be even an individual and you want to try to see your effort and see how things you are able to diminish your CO2 impact.
Oh,
So there are many changes in the coming years. We are just at the beginning of, I would say, fiscal and tax revolution regarding CO2, and government will really push into this direction. And I hope a solvent company just do it on their own, not just because the government tell them, but because it's needed to do something right now.
yes, yes. And just before that, we spoke a little bit, and as you've mentioned, something that you cannot measure, you cannot improve or just understand. So these numbers will definitely help businesses to make data-driven decisions on how to reduce their CO2 impact. But maybe you had already some discussions with I don't know, marketing departments as well, because if you show these numbers to end user, they might be interested more in product, meaning knowing that is environmentally conscious. Did you have any discussions in regards to positive branding when it comes to showing this data as well to the end user?
We have talked with a marketing-driven company that will come with watches in Switzerland, and their idea is to give full information to the customer, to say to the customer, okay, this watch is the price, let's say it's 200 euro. This watch is, it's 5 kg CO2. And there is another dimension, which is the social impact, where to say, okay, this watches has been manufactured by cheap labor in developing countries, or with a low score, or has been manufactured by people correctly paid, maybe in more developed nation. The idea behind it is just to give the information to people to say, okay, you make an act of buying, but you do an informed act of buying. You buy or you don't buy, it's your problem. You compensate or you don't compensate. We're not saying you have to compensate or whatever. Just passing information, because as a company, you have a triple impact: financial impact, ecological impact, social impact. So far, we are very good at measuring the first impact, the financial, but we are very bad at measuring the two other.
Yes, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. And already another question from the audience. Are there already some standards from European Union how to measure CO2 impact of a business, and are these modules based on these standards?
Well, the way it's currently a hot topic by the EU, but okay, I'm a Swiss, so I'm not in the EU, so I might not be the best expert in EU politics. They have the plan. The European Commission said 2023, there will be a tax. How they will implement the tax, I think probably they don't know exactly themselves, because it will be quite difficult, but we will have to set up kind of big database with value, and it's what we are interested in, because you need to feed the systems with good value to have good results.
Okay, perfect. And just one more time, reminding the audience to ask more questions, because now it's the time. We have just a few more minutes. Quite a topic indeed, and I do adore the idea of allowing businesses finally to measure not only their profits and loss when it comes to euros or dollars, but also in the social and CO2 impact. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know that now nations can trade CO2, meaning selling or buying, well, figuratively speaking, the amounts that they emit. Do you believe that in the future some benefits could arise from that for just regular businesses?
Well, that's a very big question that goes far beyond Odoo, I think. The problem, I think, the carbon pricing right now doesn't make sense, because let's talk about the capital. As this capital gets scarce, the capital should be much more expensive. And we know we have limited capital on Earth for every materials, every natural resources. But we never put into account the fact when we are consuming capitals, natural capitals. We didn't price it. We always say, okay, if I collect something from the nature, it's free, basically. But it's not free, because I'm taking it away from the future generation. So we should
Jacques,
really
I do apologize, but we're running a little bit short out of time. And yes, this discussion is going really well. So I invite everybody to join us with a link in Jitsu and continue this discussion. I do apologize again, Jacques, for interrupting you, but we will continue this discussion there. Thank you so much, Odooers, for joining our talk here, and let's continue this Odoo experience. Thank you.